the one FEMA representative that came out to this place, right, said, here's an application for $750 that will help you rebuild your home. He tore up the paperwork they gave him, and he goes, I don't need $750. He goes, I need a shower trailer for all these people that are here who don't have the ability to take a shower. Can you get me a shower trailer? And the guy goes, that's impossible. You can't get a shower trailer up here into the mountains. And he goes, impossible, huh? I want you to look at that road down there in 2 hours, and you're going to see the impossible.
1, 2, 3, we are live with the Oregon Grape, and we have a special episode here, new segment we're calling the Fermented Grape. You can see how relaxed and comfortable we are. We're in our kind of a mini art gallery in here, surrounded by mediocre paintings and drawings.
Hey, you did those.
I know, that's how I know that they're mediocre.
I like them. I like them a lot.
We are joined by Luke Doyle and Eddie Matz, and we decided to do this special episode because Luke had an interesting experience recently, and he wants to share it.
I do.
Yeah. Tell us about it, Luke. You had a trip to North Carolina. You hopped on a plane very last minute.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little bit of a background. Sunday night.
I started as a poor farm boy. No, okay.
I was born at a very young age to a family of mom and a dad. So basically,
you have to specify that nowadays because now it could be anything.
Hey,
a dog and a cat.
I was born at a very old age to a them. Basically, it was late on a Sunday evening, and I'm watching these videos a Saturday evening, watching these videos of the North Carolina floods, thinking like, man, I'm sitting here in my nice warm bed, and there's people who literally have lost everything, and a lot of people in various states. So I was researching into what citizens were doing to help them out, and there were just random people with helicopters flying in and rescuing people. That was really inspiring to me, and I was like, man, well, I don't have a helicopter. I wish I could do something, though. So then the next day, Sunday, we're driving out to a church, and I just have this feeling, and I'm telling my wife, I'm like, I have this feeling I'm supposed to be flying. Like I'm supposed to be on a plane or a helicopter. Like I'm just inspired. I want to be flying. And I was like, I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And so we go to a barbecue at her parents' that night, and as we pull into the driveway, my father-in-law is on the phone basically organizing his flights to North Carolina. And I said, what are you doing? He's like, I'm talking to Elijah, which is Aruba's cousin, my wife's cousin, about going to North Carolina to help out with the floods. And I just, without even thinking, said, can I come? And he was like, kind of chuckled, and he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So I literally...
How did he make the decision to be going?
Very similar. Yeah. He was watching videos and thought, man, I feel useless. I want to help. You know, I feel like I should be helping because if this were my neighbor, I would be helping them. Mm-hmm. And it's America. And they are our neighbors, and so it was really pure motives, you know. And then while over there, we felt really helpless because we didn't have any of our equipment. My father-in-law and a lot of family members work in heavy equipment, so they have road graders and backhoes and dump trucks and all that sort of stuff, like big boy Tonka trucks.
They wouldn't let you take those on the plane,
and they wouldn't let us take, dude. Okay, I have some stories. Basically, this is just to say that's how we got over there. I have some stories to tell because my experience over there was pretty surreal. I had never been to the South. I had never experienced disaster zone before.
You've never been to the South before?
No. I actually wrote a song about it
Was it
once.
kind of weird to go down there and be like, I guess I'm not that racist?
You know what's funny is
like,
for some people it could make them more racist.
I'm not even
I'm
top
just kidding.
1%,
I'm totally joking. No, you could be racist towards like white hillbillies if you went there if you didn't like it. But I was like, it was like family for me.
Yeah.
It was like I went there. Me and this guy Jason really bonded. He didn't have any teeth. He made homemade moonshine. Forced me to try some.
I wonder if those two things are correlated.
It's quite the experience.
He forced you to try moonshine?
It was one of those things where I'm like, no, I'm not drinking. Haven't drinking since the beginning of August, and I don't
So,
really need to.
did you get that
And he handed me the jug, even though I said no, and he goes, "Try it."
Did you get that Cosby sweater from him?
No, Jason. No, I did. Never mind. I can't say that. That is so not PG-13.
Well, I'm glad to see you still have your teeth.
I do.
Yeah.
It's
You
been a
didn't
great
come down
time.
with a case of Jake leg or anything?
No, dude. Okay, so overall, the people over in North Carolina, super nice people. Like
Yeah.
way
well,
nicer.
they're all drunk.
I would like to point out that is not an officially condoned statement by the Oregon Grape.
Yeah. I will say this. So I thought Oregon, like Southern Oregon specifically, people come up here from California and they're like, man, people are so nice in the grocery store. They'll just start talking to you while they're in line. Like, people here are so nice. And I've lived here my entire life. The only other states and places I've been to have been less nice people, like Washington, California, Hawaii. And Hawaii, everyone's trying to steal their land and tourism. So like the locals are not really like, they're on defense, right? You go to North Carolina, even in a disaster, these people are like cooking you barbecue and making sure you have a pillow to sleep on.
Wow.
And like so overly kind and hospitable.
So what, were you just there like pretending to be a refugee? You're like, yeah, I could use some stuff, please.
I could just, dude. Okay, so that brings us to what my experience was with the disaster. Do you guys want to talk about that now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. And I understand you have some conspiracy theories you're going to delight us with.
Yeah. So basically,
We should have made it 10
everything
Cue
you've
the Twilight Zone music.
everything you've heard on social media is true. No,
Yeah.
basically not. There's a lot to be speculated on the government's response to it, the government's involvement in making the disaster worse potentially by areas that they blocked off, weren't allowing private citizens to like helivac people out of places.
They're
and get
arresting
supplies
people
in.
for helping.
Seizing trailers. Now, the reason that they were seizing supplies is because there are counties that are under the authority of FEMA, and that is a really scary thing to think about, that the sheriffs in that county are no longer the highest authority in a disaster. They can't say like, oh yeah, supplies need to go here. It's FEMA that's organizing that. Not every county is that way. From how I understand it, there are certain counties that have accepted government funding, and then that allows FEMA to then be the authority in a disaster scenario, not the local individuals.
So is there like a little bit of martial law that gets implemented when FEMA comes in?
In a way, they're able to block off roads. They're able to stop people from going to their own houses. Kind of similar to what happened in Hawaii, right? What happened in Hawaii is Lahaina burnt, and people who couldn't even go back to their own homes.
Yeah.
They blocked off the entire area, fenced it off, and said, nope, you're not allowed in. And you're not allowed to fly drones over to see what we're doing. It's like, it was very...
They called dibs on an entire county.
Yeah, right. Whoa, that's a way of putting it. Yeah. So basically, over in North Carolina, the disaster, for those of you who don't know, which I don't know how you wouldn't because it's all over social media for the last couple weeks, but basically, Hurricane Helene, which followed another hurricane. They had just been hit by... the South had just been hit by a hurricane, and then this next one comes in, Helene. Went from like a low cat, like a cat 1 or 2 or 3, to a cat 5 by the time it got 250 miles from the nearest coast. The area I was in was Swannanoa. Swannanoa is 241 miles from the nearest coastline.
Why is that significant?
Where do hurricanes normally hit?
I suppose the coastline?
Yeah. It's not normally, towards getting to the middle of the USA. It's like, it's pretty strange that something would increase in magnitude as an ocean storm. Normally it hits mountains and valleys and it calms down
and
as
it
it
breaks
hits.
it down, yeah.
It got stronger and stronger.
Is that where you get into the stuff where people say that they like geoengineered it to be worse or
Yeah.
something?
So that's my take, is that if this is a 1,000-year storm that they're saying there's literally never in recorded history has this ever happened. The Appalachian Mountains, where this storm hit, has never been hit with a hurricane. It doesn't happen. They had one that was, I guess I just said it, they never get hit. They had one, I want to say 100 years ago, that was minor. It was nothing compared to this. It's like the mountains don't get hit with these sort of like hurricane, mudslide, flash flood things. There was even like tornado-like damage from the winds. I mean, you were seeing places where just...
Did you see a pair of red slippers underneath the house?
No, I didn't. But I did see a house in a tree, which if you haven't seen a house in a tree before, that will wake you up a little bit.
Treehouse.
Golly, where have I heard of that before?
Basically, there were homes that floated downriver.
Wow.
A fellow we had talked to. This all happened. Okay, so imagine. Put yourself in this place. Close your eyes real quick. Put yourself in this place. It is 9 a.m.
I'm not going to close my eyes when you're wearing the Cosby sweater.
I don't even know if it'll show up on camera. I got such squinty eyes that it won't show up that I even close
Yeah,
them.
he's been half asleep this whole time.
Oh, man.
Okay, let me close my eyes and imagine what you're telling me.
You're in North Carolina, living in the mountains.
And I'm feeling very sleepy.
And you're very safe. You're in your double wide, okay? All of a sudden, you're like, man, it's raining a lot. It's kind of windy. I guess I'll get out of bed. There is feet of water in your living room. You are trumpsing through water, trying to see if you can get the door open. You're yelling at your wife, hey, get out of the house, right? Everyone's getting out. You're trying to get your car out.
He was yelling that before the flood started.
Oh, can we open our eyes now?
Yeah, you can open your eyes now. Because your house is flooded. Okay,
Yeah.
so there were people
You didn't
who...
open your eyes when the house flooded? That's when you open your eyes.
That's when
if
you
anything.
open your eyes. If you're wading through the water with your eyes closed. Basically, there were people who woke up 9 a.m. and their house was just flooded.
Yeah.
Story I heard was of a guy who was literally pinned against a post in his house for 4 hours until he could get out.
Wow.
The water rose 38 feet from the creek.
Okay.
38 feet.
Dang.
That's like twice as tall as this building.
Yeah. That does put it in perspective. Doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I have plenty of pictures I could show you guys here of basically
Picture
the water
the Christmas
level.
tree downtown
So-
around Christmas time. That's how tall it rose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, here's a picture of when we're flying in. That's all the mud in the river.
Yeah, that's nuts.
There are houses in that river.
So that was an actual river originally, but it's been flooded that high.
Yeah.
Was it a river or a creek originally?
There was a river that was flooded and actually a major dam that broke at Lake Lure. Lake Lure, the dam broke, and that actually is where the whole city got their water from, their city water. So the whole city was out of water. For a long time, the whole city was out of power. By the time we flew in, Asheville had power, but most of the surrounding areas around Asheville did not have power. Let me cycle through here and I can get you some.
Are those some of like the storage camps?
Yeah, so I can show you that. So this is one of the first churches that we went into. This is one of 5 rooms in the church that looked like this. Just full of supplies, lots of diapers, toilet paper, food, dog food, cat food, water. Oh my gosh, dude. I have never seen, like, you think of like Costco pallets of water. Imagine like 15 Costco's unload in one church.
Wow.
That's what it looked like. Like they ran out of room and you couldn't see the walls outside of the church in some areas because it's just stacked pallets
And
of water.
are these all? What do you think the percentages of like this is from the government, this is from citizens
Zero
out
from
of
the
state?
government. Zero from the government. I asked. I said, so what support has FEMA given you guys? What support have government officials given you guys? They said none. Every single person I asked, they said, no, it's all private. They said it is Samaritan's Purse. They said it is the Cajun Navy, which is another nonprofit. And they said it is individual people who are donating supplies, and then a citizen is driving them in on trailers. There was no resources from FEMA. So then
Which has been the complaint, is that there hasn't been any government help.
And just to kind of give a little defense, I don't know that it should be the government's job to bail out in the case of a disaster. It's obviously done a lot better by private citizens, but FEMA should definitely be helping the private citizens. They shouldn't be hindering
What do we have
them.
them around for if they don't do anything?
I was going to say, we fund
fair.
FEMA for
We
stuff
do.
like this.
We do,
so.
and they have, I think it's 20,000 employees. And so it makes you think about it and you go, okay, what are those 20,000 employees doing if the biggest disaster is right here and I'm here and can't find a single FEMA employee? There's 20,000 of them. What are they doing? Where are they?
I'm curious.
Someone's honking at you.
I'm curious to learn if
It's a very popular
most of
shop.
them
People
or-
like to show their support.
Yeah, I'm curious to learn if most of or any of them are in Florida right now.
Hurricane Milton was not hitting until about 4 days after we got there, but that was one of my thoughts was, okay, maybe they all moved down there to do some pre-disaster. Yeah.
Still honking that horn.
They're still honking at
They're
you.
working it.
Yeah.
So my
It's probably defective.
It's very
but,
distracting.
like-
I don't want to get too off topic, but somebody had mentioned that you had gone to like 9 different FEMA centers, not saw a single FEMA employee.
Went to about 6 or 7 different cities. Multiple different places where they said FEMA was going to be. Even saw signs that said, FEMA Staging Center, right? I have pictures of some of those centers, and they're empty. They're empty, dude. And you walk around, and you see plenty of linemen from Duke Energy is like the Pacific Power over North Carolina. So, like, if there was a big, huge power outage, like all of Southern Oregon's out of power, you'd see a lot of Pacific Power linemen and a lot of linemen from other states. Just like with wildfires, they call people in from other states to help,
I
relieve
know
the disaster.
I know a lineman from here that's down there right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, and that's what you see a ton of, is a ton of linemen at work trying to get people power. But the problem is it's not really a problem. The weird part was all the linemen you talk to go, oh yeah, FEMA's over there. And then you go over there and they go, oh yeah, FEMA's maybe over there. And then it's like this.
Well, and that
we
was
started
gonna be-
joking. We're like, FEMA doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's all a mirage.
Yeah.
It's all, it's like
It's like the Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. It
Yeah.
was very strange.
So what I mean, this is kind of what I was going to ask you, is what was like the locals experience with FEMA? Like, is this because it was a couple weeks after the actual disaster that like now FEMA is packing up and leaving? Did they ever see FEMA or?
So some people I talked to said there had been a FEMA representative come to essentially hand out applications.
It's just a homeless guy who found a lab coat.
right. To hand out
I'm FEMA.
Yeah.
We're going to take all the water. We're going to put it in this cardboard box over here.
Ship it down the river. Oh, the cardboard box. I get it. There was one person I talked to who said a FEMA official had come by the church, and he was kind of the leader of this. So just imagine this. In a disaster scenario, things get very tribal. People establish leaders.
Before we move on, do you want to state which church this is so people know to like go there or something if they're watching this? Or?
Probably not.
Okay.
I mean, it was. I'll say this: it was a church just outside the Swannanoa area.
Okay. I'm sure if locals were there, they would know.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, and the people there were amazing to us. They seriously, like, I can't say enough how wonderful it was to the whole time we were there. Basically, all me, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, and his cousin. We built a 30 by 10 shelter. That had 2 different rooms to essentially house people or supplies, so that as this rainy season comes, because it's the South and it gets really wet there, that all the supplies that they've gotten donated are not going to just mold or go to waste or get ruined. And they're not going to have good water for months, could be a year until like
all that clears out from the wells
septic's
and everything.
overflowed into. They're saying this is another thing that I wanted to talk about. They're saying that with what overflowed and the things and the different toxic waste that's just in the river and creeks and in the water table, people's homes are going to get condemned. They're not going to be able to rebuild. They're going to have to start from scratch, and you can't just re-drill a new well, and you can't just purify your well because what's running into it is just so toxic. So
basically,
I wonder how much that sounds very plausible. I wonder how much that is true, because I'm sure most people watching this know there are a lot of lithium and cobalt mines under that place that people have been wanting to seize for years. Have been offering buyouts for years.
Well, and that kind of brings into like the conspiracy theory stuff, because it sounds like what you're saying is
I got lots of material for that.
I had a feeling you would. It sounds like what your personal experience there was that all the help being given was private, and that basically there was no federal help being given. And so where do you think that comes from?
Can I bring it back to it gets very tribal, and people establish leaders. So the area that you're in, you have people coming
like
to
militias forming of people with face paint.
Is it bad? I'm picturing Waterworld.
No. Imagine the area that you live in. So a disaster hits, and the people that are closest in vicinity to you, some of them have lost their homes, some haven't. Some people have a place to stay, some don't. And a camp is established at the closest church to you, okay? That's where people are going for food, showers, supplies, and even a place to sleep if they don't have a home. That's what's happening in this area. And all over North Carolina. People are going to the closest church. They have supplies. They have what you need. Just basic supplies, toilet paper, deodorant, whatever it is, right? And the people who don't have homes are even helping contribute. So they're cooking food. They're making sure all the supplies that are donated are organized. They're helping with people's pets. They're doing all of these different things. And it's all this little tribe.
The gerbils are safe.
Dude, it's this little tribe, and I'm not kidding. Leadership is the most important thing, because if you didn't have someone like the person I'm thinking of, I'm not going to say his name, but if you didn't have that guy, that whole area would have fallen apart. There were people pulling guns on each other. He had to. This is another thing, dude. In the South, everyone open carries. And since we flew on planes, I didn't have a gun, and I felt like a little helpless little sheep. Like everybody has a gun over there. When I say multiple, there are people with just multiple guns on them all the time. And I'm comfortable around firearms, but like,
when you don't have one yourself,
don't have one,
and you're the stranger,
and you're from Oregon, and they're like, "Who are you? Why are you here?" The reason we weren't able to go and do search and rescue, one, was because we were a little too late. We came like a week after the fact, so most people had been rescued, which is good. A lot of them deceased. The day before we got there, the fellow who was the leader, okay, I'm just gonna call him the leader of the tribe. He was doing excavation and working with the cadaver dogs, and they discovered 20 dead bodies in the area that
in the one town.
In the one, it's not even a town. Literally a couple houses on a mountainside around a church. Like
when that plays into how you think that the death numbers have been diminished. They're not. They're
I would
much higher
almost,
than
I would almost say I
Just
know.
what was the official numbers they were giving out?
They're giving out like
200 people
200
or something. And if there were 20 just in this area,
you spoke to the morgue, didn't you?
So basically, the people I was in contact with told me, I didn't speak directly to the mortuary, but they told me the mortuary gave out thousands of body bags. And I heard that from multiple people about multiple mortuaries and the area of
In
Swan
multiple towns.
In multiple towns. Because, and it's not hard to believe. It's very easy to believe that because when you go over there, you see the damage and you see how many houses and that people weren't given evacuation notice. And you see that there's areas where these mountain communities just got mudslided and didn't have access. I mean, 2 people committed suicide in a community, a little German town. They committed suicide because they didn't have communication with the outside world. And they were like, well, this is the end. That makes me think like,
so
it is almost on purpose that they're wrecking this area. It's a negligence to the point to where you start to think malice.
Well, what's interesting is that I feel like it's pretty natural after a disaster where you don't get like an accurate number of deaths until like probably weeks later. Yeah. But the thing is like you're saying, it sounds like FEMA hasn't even been there to be tracking these things anyways.
So do you want to go to me finally finding the first FEMA person?
Yeah.
Outside of the disaster zone entirely.
Was it
finally
the homeless guy in the lab coat like I predicted?
No. It was a lady. She was at the Embassy Suites in Asheville, outside of Asheville, kind of. And basically, she wasn't FEMA either. She was law enforcement, North Carolina law enforcement. Saying
Maybe we should blur that out. We shouldn't say where she's staying.
Oh, embassy is like there's
lots of embassy suites.
Okay. Yeah, but you said specifically.
And she might not even be staying there anymore.
People get weird about
for
this.
the one weird guy who's gonna go to the embassy suites to find this FEMA person. You know?
Well, from what I've heard,
each time we say it, it's one more time to bleep it. Embassy suites.
A lot of people were pretty angry at like any FEMA work.
This is the other thing. So, we pull up to this one church and there's a spray painted sign on like either cardboard or plywood that says FEMA, right? And we're like, oh cool, we finally found them. This is like the 3rd time we've pulled up to a site that has a sign that says FEMA. But we're like, we finally found them, joking around because there's like a little rundown church and like a cardboard sign that says FEMA. We pull in and a guy walks out to our truck. Hey, how's it going? What can I do for you guys? And I'm like, hey, we're looking for FEMA. He goes, why? What do you want to do to them? That's what he said. What do you want to do to them? And I'm like, we just want to ask some questions about like, how we can help with disaster effort.
So that right there highlights the attitude towards FEMA in the area.
When they went to the leader of the church that we were working at doing the shelter for, he tore up the paperwork they gave him and handed it back to him. The one FEMA representative that came out to this place, right? That the leader spoke to said, here's an application for $750 that will help you rebuild your home or something like that, right? Yeah, pretty pathetic. And he goes, I don't need $750. And he goes, I need a shower trailer for all these people that are here who don't have the ability to take a shower. Can you get me a shower trailer? And the guy goes, that's impossible. You can't get a shower trailer up here into the mountains. And he goes, impossible, huh? This guy's really resourceful. And he goes, okay, because the roads are just destroyed. You have to take weird back roads, and those back roads are destroyed. You have to drive over power lines. I drove over like 15 power lines, and we were driving through someone's field because the section of road in front of the field was gone. It was in the river. There was just asphalt in the river. And so we had to drive through. Yeah, I do. Yeah. We had to drive through a field to get there. And basically, he's like, okay, impossible. Are you going to be here in 2 hours? And the guy said, yeah, I'll be here in 2 hours. And he goes, okay, I want you to look at that road down there in 2 hours, and you're going to see the impossible. He drove with his tractor to a nearby town, picked up a shower trailer, and drove it back up the road and got it there. And he waved to the guy as he was coming in. And it was one of those scenarios where it's like private people are going to do what needs to get done. FEMA is not. We had 100 military guys come in, okay? This totally changed my view of the Army, and I'm sad to say that. It did change my view of the Army, because when you think of the Army, you think of, like, the best of the best, the most resourceful, at least I did. I thought of, like, well-trained, people who are, kind of, like, selfless, like, they're they want to really benefit the people they're around, and they're well-trained is what I thought. What I saw was 100 military guys come, eat a bunch of food from people who didn't have their homes, and then stand around waiting for their captain to tell them something to do. and they couldn't find anything to do, so they came up to us while we were building this shelter, asking if they could help, which was honorable. They wanted to help, right? But it was one of those, you have Humvees, you have Chinooks, you should probably be like, I don't know, like helping people who have a tree on their house.
Well, you know what that comes down to is that actually, Eddie's dad was obviously in the military, and he could probably speak to that. You really aren't allowed to act without getting approval from the higher ups.
Well, you got to understand, most of those people there are probably 17, 18, 19 years old.
That's what I learned.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys individually were super kind, super nice.
Army, was this National Guard?
Army National Guard.
Okay, yeah.
Army National Guard, and it was one of those. The individual people were great. I loved talking to them, and they restacked a bunch of lumber for us, brought it closer to our site.
I believe National Guard I think it's mostly or strictly reserves.
That makes sense.
I think.
That makes sense. And I shouldn't be talking bad about them, so I'm sorry if I'm doing that.
I'm just trying to give context.
It was one of those weird things, though, where I'm like, okay, they're here. It doesn't seem like they've been given proper orders on what they're doing. So they literally just in their response to not having anything to do there, they took 90 of the people away, left 10, and those 10 people were there for the whole duration of us being there while we finished up building the shelter, and helped organize some goods and stuff like that. But it's just strange because you think like, okay, you have all this
military.
Manpower. You have all this manpower
used for anything.
It's like the 100 of you guys, you're well-bodied men. You could go and start clearing roads with shovels, or you could go, and there was just no leadership. It wasn't them. It was that there was no leadership. There was no action on organizing how to actually solve these problems, because it's not that there wasn't problems to solve.
Yeah.
Everywhere you looked, there was problems.
But also, like, just sitting there, like, using supplies is like, you're just making things worse. Not doing anything.
Which brings me back to that it's a negligence that you would almost think it's like malice. It's strange when you have the government response was so late. It was so like come in a couple weeks after, and then just be like, oh, you guys have already developed a system. Well, let us take over and do it worse.
I understand there's a lot of red tape, especially concerning the government and the military. But in situations like this, I feel like a lot of that should be done away with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's almost required.
Here's a picture of a Humvee. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, the dude wipe Humvee.
Yeah, that's the dude wipe Humvee. It was full of dude wipes. Oh yeah, this is the supply room. So this is a little video I'll take you guys through. This is just what it looks like in a disaster area when you're organizing supplies. There's tons of cases of bleach, lots of canned food.
Did you have to sneak your camera in anywhere where people upset?
No. So that was the other thing. So yeah, room filled with bottles of water, which honestly, that's not even enough water. They won't have clean drinking water for who knows how long. And so
another camera.
yeah. So it's just strange because without
one of those cases of water will maybe give water to a drinking water to a family of like 5 maybe for a day. You know?
Right, exactly. I definitely just clicked the wrong button.
That's right. Just get back into it.
So basically, when it comes down to supplies, what I learned is
hit that on full screen for me.
Yeah. What I learned about supplies is that organization is huge, because if you can't store what you're given, it's going to go bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to talk about on the organizational side, but it sounds like maybe we need to.
Yeah, let's switch up the cameras real quick. Yeah. Cool. Okay, we're live again. Keep going.
So basically, with the organizational stuff, there were people there just delivering wire racks so that you could stack up all the food in the rooms, because otherwise everything just goes on the floor. Like, think about it. If you're at your house or at your local church and you had trailers and trailers showing up of food, and water and all these different supplies, like, what are you going to do with it? You don't naturally have like pallet racking from Costco. And so that was a lot of what people were doing in their spare time, was just organizing. And that's why we were building the storage shed, was so that they had a covered place to put stuff. And then as we're building it, these cargo containers start showing up that some guy's friend found out that we needed storage and started delivering cargo containers. Really wonderful. So what we started doing was we were like, okay, well, these might be living spaces then, because there's a lot of people without homes. Mm-hmm. So we built some bunk bed frames into.
That's awesome.
That could also be used as shelves. And so that was a really cool thing. And I'll show you guys a quick picture of This is a sign that the guy who was kind of the foreman on our project made, and it's basically says "Made with love and care for the people of." We'll just bleep that out. The church, and then it has the people that worked on it and who donated the materials, and that's what the shed looked like when we were done with it. Looks a lot smaller on camera. It was pretty big. Here's some destruction on the road. So that you can see is the double yellow line in the middle of the road, but
So that whole half of the road is gone.
Yeah, that whole half of the road is gone.
You see it better in that picture.
That one cone was the only thing telling you that
Not to drive
So
there?
if you drove it at night, people kept telling us do not drive around at night because
Yeah.
you don't know what section of road is missing. And down that's like a 400-foot drop on the other side.
So did the river come up to that area and pull the road out?
Mudslide.
Oh, okay.
So that's the strange part is you have these mountain areas that are far from the coast. They have a lot of creeks. Think about our area. We have a lot of mountains in our area. There's lots of valleys, little creeks that flow into different rivers. If all those creeks suddenly the amount of rainfall they got was something like 36 inches overnight, and it was like so just 3 feet of water fell from the sky in these mountains and just overwhelmed these little creeks to where it washed away like so much to where mountains were just collapsing on the roads. And it's just crazy because that's not a normal thing to happen, especially in this area. And it makes me think, I've known about cloud seeding and geo-weather engineering for a long time. They've been doing it since, late 1900s. And it's one of those things that they no longer really hide. They say, oh, yeah, we do it in Dubai so that it gets rain because that's a desert area. And we do it in these different countries to like help with agriculture.
Like the science behind it being possible is not disputed. It's just whether or not it's used against as a weapon
for
against our own country.
Right. For a long time, they were like, oh, chemtrails, like, conspiracy theory. But now it's like, no, the general population recognizes the difference between an airplane that flies over and leaves a trail and one that doesn't. And there's a big thing to be said for it being used as a weapon. We're going to get a lot of
flack for talking about chemtrails, but
that's fine.
But the thing is like
that's fine.
The science does exist, and
look up
that part
geo-weather
really
engineering.
disputed.
If you're someone watching and you think chemtrails are just a joke, just type in geo-weather engineering history.
Well, if I'm not wrong, there were actually a few states who banned it, and they actually got bans against it because it was known that it was doing it. It was like some of the East Coast states, like New Jersey or something. Like it's banned to do geoengineering.
I believe it was the president of Saudi Arabia or one of the leaders of that country was actually saying that there were countries using it as a weapon against him, keeping rain from coming to his country. Think about that for a second. If you could stop rain from falling on your enemies to where you basically dry them out and ruin their crops, like, because there's places that you don't have to irrigate. Rain is what irrigates for you.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of places where...
Let's not take the president of Saudi Arabia as a reputable source very seriously. So
all I'm saying is it's not
Joe
a... It's
Biden,
not a...
stole his stamp collection.
Yeah, right. Basically, when you research chemtrails, research geo-weather engineering, and look at the history of it, the technology behind it, it's putting metals into a cloud, and so that it basically causes it to produce or not produce rainfall. And so it's called cloud seeding, and you can look into it. If you don't believe in it, that's totally fine, but it is a very real thing.
So what is the sort of theories or evidence behind people saying that that's what happened here with the Hurricane Helene?
The fact that it is an anomaly.
Helene, I'm begging of you, please don't run my town. Sorry.
Wow.
I'm glad you can make a joke about it. Because I don't think the people in North Carolina can sing that now.
Yeah.
Basically, the evidence for it would be how much of an anomaly this storm is. Once in 1,000 years, what they're calling it. They're like, oh, yeah, it's like a 1,000-year storm. It's like, okay, well, why is that? Why did that all of a sudden decide to hit a month before the biggest election in our country?
Yeah. Well, Al Gore told me that it was climate change and that we were supposed to be underwater by now. So for me, I think Hurricane Helene is we're just doing pretty good considering that.
Thanks, Al Gore. Thanks for the warning.
Thanks for the warning.
Thanks for inventing the internet.
Did he claim to do that?
I don't know if he did, but I think people claimed it as a joke.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Look at that. I feel older than you now.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Well, you did just have your birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday to Eddie. Yeah.
Anyways, back to death. So you could say the fact that it's an anomaly. The other is that you can actually track the storm. There are satellite images of you tracking the storm, and you can see it increase, checking the flight patterns of what sorts of planes went over the area during the storm. Okay, this is all stuff that you can research, and if you're savvy and you know what to look for, it all of a sudden becomes really obvious what happened. And I'm not going to say what happened. I'm just saying I think it was engineered.
Look, I'm someone that's pretty like skeptical of that sort of thing. But I will say though that someone that comes from a military family, like anyone that I've ever talked to that works in any sort of military, whether it's lower or military intelligence, they all say the same thing. That like, yeah, that's pretty possible. They can do that.
Yeah, they can do that. And when it comes to it, you can go, okay, say they could do that. What would be their incentive to do that? Okay. Do you guys know who BlackRock is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So BlackRock is this little company. It's kind of like a mom and pop, It's like a little family company. Only owns like all the wealth in the world, basically.
Eddie, you need to fix that picture. It's crooked. It's bothering me.
Which one?
The one of like my face.
Eli can't have a crooked face. You can't do that to him.
Oh, it's like so.
Thank you for doing that. Now it's artistically crooked.
Okay.
It's called a Dutch
Actually, it's
angle.
better. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry. Go ahead. That was just
No, you're
bothering
good.
me.
You're
It's
good.
like right behind your head.
So BlackRock.
Do you want to talk? So, are you going to get into like intention behind why? Because
Why would they cloud seed?
We
Why would
talked
they-
about like
yeah.
the science is possible. There's
why would they do
there's
that?
some evidence for it because you had these planes going by around the same time.
I'm just realizing everyone now who watches the Oregon Grape is gonna watch this. And
We're
just,
already
now,
in the category of
all the rest
conspiracy
of my
theorists,
opinions.
yeah.
All the rest of my opinions, they're just gonna see through a lens of like
I am
Luke's crazy.
so glad you got a picture of Waffle House.
Oh, bro.
Have you ever heard? I've told you about this. The Waffle
They're
House
always
Index?
open.
Did
Yes,
you get
you're
that
the one that
for
told me. Yes, I
Yeah.
did. That's why I just put it up on the screen. It's because I wanted
So
to let
You
you know.
did tell us that. You said no matter what,
Bro.
no matter the disaster, Waffle House is always
So
open.
for viewers of the podcast that aren't familiar with this, the Waffle House Index is a real thing that FEMA uses to judge like the disaster zone of places, mostly in the South because it's where Waffle Houses normally are. But they'll judge it depending on like, okay, Waffle House is open and running at full capacity to Waffle House is open and running at like half capacity to like if a Waffle House is closed, get out. Get out. Don't be there.
They're like, it's
Be
over.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this Waffle House, to give you a reference, they only had an emergency menu. They had basically scramble bowls of hash browns, a slice of cheese, and some bacon. That's what they were serving.
So that's pretty bad.
Yeah, pretty bad. And you weren't allowed to eat inside for some reason. You had to take it and leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they already have so many fights that happen there.
Oh, yeah, I bet. I mean, so we met this fella. I don't know if I got the video on here, but we met a fella. Oh, okay. So just to give people an idea of the disaster zone, that's a bridge that's gone.
Wow.
So that used to be a bridge.
I like how they just have a little strap there, like stop.
Yeah, dude, that's the South. It's just like that one cone on a completely destroyed. Yeah. I mean, they're trying. It's like they're doing it because, I mean, think about how many places are like this.
If you walk that far, that's kind of your own fault.
Oh, I totally agree. If you don't stop at the strap, then
Well, they're worried about cars driving off, right?
yeah. I mean, just so much trash to clean up because everything is everywhere.
Yeah.
Like the amount of just tires and pallets and things that are in trees, like it's wild.
So can you get back into intention behind the weather seeding thing? Like what were you
Yeah.
saying about BlackRock?
Yeah, so
Has there been anyone that's like tied this to them?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people who have tied it to the lithium mining. So think about this. Well,
they're already the thing I wanted to point out earlier about them being not able to rebuild. People are already going in there and buying up land.
Yeah.
and their reasoning is that they can't rebuild on it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is it's kind of like a Maui situation where you could force people out of their homes if you make their home basically if you destroy their home or allow it to be destroyed. I'm not saying the government destroyed everyone's homes. I'm saying if you allowed it to happen, it was in the benefit of these large corporations that essentially own parts of the government, they would be able to then do what they will with it. And these areas have super large deposits of lithium. Which is becoming very quickly probably the most valuable mineable material because you think about it, it used to be gold, but your Tesla batteries are not made out of gold; they're made out of lithium.
The more that we
Your
transfer
iPhone
to
battery,
electric battery powered stuff, the
yeah,
more
which
lithium
is the
becomes
whole
valuable.
goal of a certain group of people, right? You have like things like the Green New Deal and the climate change agenda wanting to get rid of carbon emission, and so wanting to go towards batteries and. It's just kind of strange that it would happen to this area, that it never happens to, 1 in 1,000-year event, that it would happen at the time it did right over these areas, these pinpointed areas.
So I don't know much about lithium mining or how difficult it is to find a good mining site. But people were saying that this area of North Carolina was
It's like a super rich deposit. It's an area you don't just have lithium everywhere. It's like some places, like you should really get a mining sample done on a property before you buy it, because there could be uranium in the soil. And if that's the case, the government can come and seize your property, because they can be like, well, we need to mine this, and they'll just pay you the market price if you're lucky, or they'll just take your property. That happened to some people in Eastern Oregon. There was a huge, basically, war fought over it. People died because they tried seizing a farmer's land.
I remember that. Yeah.
Because he had things
How
in
long
the
ago
soil
was
that they
that?
went. That was in
Years
2000.
ago.
It was 2012. Maybe it was during Obama's presidency.
I was gonna say it was pre-Trump. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pre-Trump. But one of those things that you look at is like, okay, this is a super rich lithium deposit, and this area is now destroyed. People are starting to rebuild their homes, and it's really sad because there's a chance that they're just going to be condemned, and they're going to have to bulldoze, right? It's like you're not going to be able to rebuild. So, and they're not telling people that.
Has
which is
anybody
sad.
been able to, like, with reliable evidence, tie it to BlackRock?
They own the mining company.
BlackRock's
that has made
been-
multiple offers on the
Yeah,
land,
they've
and
been
people are
offering
refusing to
forever.
sell.
Really?
Yeah.
So
And
they've
I-
been making offers on the land.
They have
for
been
a
making
while.
offers. Yes,
I know people are
So at the
making
very
offers.
least, this is very convenient for BlackRock.
And this all sounds super speculatory. There are actual documents to back this up. You can look at the offers made on properties from, I think, AMS. What is it? There's another company and BlackRock that have both been putting in these offers, and they already own other lithium mines. And it's like, I'm just saying this. We only have so much time, and I'm just kind of saying this all speculatory. But like, there's evidence to back up the things that.
Well, at the very least, that this would be convenient for BlackRock.
Yeah.
And that it would be, or
Yeah.
anybody who's interested in mining there. But then if you want to confirm a conspiracy theory, the next step is saying, well, what part did they have in restricting government FEMA help,
Yeah.
and like.
And
that
only
sort of
time will
thing.
tell, like, if they actually use it for this. And if that's the case, then it's going to be like, wow, like, that's crazy.
If in the next few years BlackRock owns like half of North Carolina,
You're gonna know.
then you'd be like, nah, it's a little
And
fishy.
if not,
Yeah.
you can be like, oh, Luke was totally wrong. But it's one of
Yeah.
those things that it's just a little weird that it happened to that area, because it typically wouldn't, that a disaster like that would happen to that area. I do want to I don't know how much time we have, but I wanted to end on a couple key facts about North Carolina that I learned.
Yeah, we got like another 15 minutes.
Okay, sweet. So basically, the food there is fantastic. The people there are super kind.
Yeah.
There is a lot of like, okay, so this one town I was in is named after the Biltmores. Okay. It's called like the Biltmore Village. It'd almost be like how like around here it's like Rogue, everything's Rogue, like, Rogue Amphitheater, Rogue Valley, Community College or whatever, like Rogue. Everything over there is like Biltmore Avenue, the Biltmore Plaza. It's all Biltmore. The Biltmore family was a tobacco family, is I believe where they made a lot of their money.
You'd think it'd be construction.
Yeah. Basically, dude.
No, it was like some Biltmore kid, like that was what it was for years, and he's like, I'm gonna do my own thing.
I wonder if I
I'm
can
gonna
pull
farm
up a
tobacco.
picture. I'm gonna pull up a picture real quick for you guys.
He's like, weed's not legal yet, but we're gonna do tobacco.
Right. Well, actually, I don't know if I can, but I'd like to pull up a picture of the Biltmore house, and this is the largest house in the U.S. Okay. So just think about that. I believe it's 194,000 square feet.
Wow.
And how big is that for people who don't speak contractor? Is it big, or
Big.
is it like
That's big.
pretty fucking big?
It's pretty fucking big. So
The biggest house that
I mean, is that big? Is that pretty big?
that's
Queen Elizabeth would stay there
yeah.
If she were lucky. If she
if
were
she were
alive.
alive.
Yeah, so the whole
corgis
area is
would
kind
stay
of
there.
named off of this, so the viewers can look at
That
this.
is nuts. That's a castle.
It is a castle. I wish it would just show you a big picture. There you go. The
Wow.
gates of this area, the floodwaters reach the gates of this area.
Look at the size of the people next to it. How many stories is that? Like 5 stories?
God, dude, I don't know. I didn't get to go, but it's one of those things that the whole area to it was closed off. The guy who built it did it really strategically. He used multiple different people's names to buy up plots of land all around the area because he had this goal of building essentially the largest estate, and kind of owned the town. Is what it sounded like from what people were saying. And yeah, now it's just like this huge building.
Was it like a tourist location?
I think so. Yeah,
They have like
it
a
would have been cool to
Build-A-Bear
go
in there?
They don't have a Build-A-Bear, I don't think. I can't confirm nor deny the Build-A-Bear.
They got
in
a
the Biltmore
Starbucks
estate.
inside.
The Starbucks at the entrance. Okay, that's funny you say that. At the entrance, like to the gate to the Biltmore mansion, the Starbucks was flooded. The Walmart in the area got so flooded that they had to throw out every single thing because there was water 10 feet up on these buildings, okay? They had this furniture store doing a $1 million giveaway, and it was literally just all their furniture that was in their entire facility, and a huge furniture store like an Ashley or something like that, right? And they're just all the furniture sitting on the sidewalk covered in mud.
Yeah.
That's like everywhere.
Did you experience or hear about any looting while you were there?
So this is the weird part I wanted to mention. People at these different...
Only what he did himself.
No, we tried buying food, and there wasn't places to buy food. You had to get it from the donation center because no one had power. No one had... So we got like one taco truck that was open, and then we went into town to Asheville at one point to get some food because it's like we were kind of tired of like only having like handout. You know, like I wanted to support the community.
Was Asheville one of the cities not hit?
Asheville was hit. It's just that they're like the biggest city, and so they restored it the quickest. That was the priority.
It had more infrastructure.
Infrastructure, and it wasn't all on low ground. But it's strange that it hit the mountains almost more than the city. It was just there's so much that's strange about it, and you can't attribute like all of it like it could just be that it's an anomaly. It could just be that it's an oddity. But there's a lot of things that are strange about it that just makes you go like, really?
Going back to the looting.
I think it was more so that there were trailers showing up with generators and they were just handing them out. There was a talk. Someone came up and was talking to one of the leaders at the place I was at and was like, hey, there's talk of like people taking our gas cans and going to town and like selling them to people. And the response was, if they feel the need to do that, okay. Like that was the response, because it's like we're not gonna it's donated. It's all free. And the part that was weird is there was no like talk of like rationing or managing supplies. It was all just, there's so much, take whatever you want, use whatever you want. And it's like they would cook all this food, right, and then end up throwing a bunch away because like they knew if they didn't cook it, they had more donations coming in. They didn't have freezer space, so it was like they had to cycle through. And it was like really strange that it's like it was almost like this state of abundance. And the concern was from me and some other people that like donations are going to stop at one point. And then like, what if your infrastructure is not rebuilt to where you can go? And dude, people I had talked to emptied bank accounts. All their bank accounts were emptied because they were just doing things to essentially help other people. Yeah. And it's like
that's the really cool thing about those types of events is you get to also see the charity that people can have. It
made me feel like people are so much better than I thought people are. So on the looting side, I would say like if there was talk of it, it wasn't looting. There wasn't like people going into people's homes and trying to like grab stuff. It was more so at all these donation sites, maybe like, like people putting a couple extra candy bars in their pockets and stuff like that. But it's like, at the same, they're allowed to. It's like it's all take what you need, and that was weird because there's $3,000 generators sitting there, and someone's like, "Oh, do you need a generator?" And it's like, whoa, like that's because everyone's just like making sure everyone's taken care of. So there wasn't really any opportunity because there was so much abundance of donations.
You didn't take back a generator, did you?
No, I did not. Okay. No, they wouldn't let me check it. No, I'm joking. But it's one of those scenarios where you're just like, wow, this is crazy. It's like people are being so overly generous that no one has to worry about like, oh, let me take some extra of this or let me loot this. It's like there was just abundance. The concern was that that wasn't going to last. And that there wouldn't be power, water, infrastructure, or people wouldn't have the money. So I think there's going to be a huge... You remember the Paradise Fires?
Yep.
That caused a lot of homelessness. That whole area got wrecked. And if you didn't have a family member to live with, if you were just like a guy making ends meet, renting an apartment, and that apartment's not there, it's like, oof. And then you don't have any money. You don't have a job because your business that you worked for burnt down. It's like, that's going to be a lot of these people, their jobs aren't going to be there because the business is gone. Like Habitat for Humanity was flooded, and they're who's supposed to help people get homes, right? And so it's like you look at the whole scenario, and it's like, oh, there's going to be people who have to leave. They don't have another option. That's really sad. Yeah. So getting contractors into that area, like this would be a legitimate role of FEMA. Give contractors a contract to come in and clean up, rebuild the area, restore it, and then find a way to... If you're not
doing work yourself, at least pay some of the locals
find a way to supplement the income of people who legitimately lost their homes and jobs until they can get into that new position.
On that note, do you have a plan to go back?
I actually thought it would be really cool to go back and like check up and
once the Waffle House opens up.
Right? It was interesting. Yeah, going to a Waffle House at night and meeting people there. There was a guy we met named Tony, and he was a lineman. We talked to him for a bit, asked him where FEMA was. We went to that address. Guess what?
Wasn't there.
FEMA wasn't there. So it's like one of those things that, I think I could see myself going back. I actually have some friends over there.
It's like this
in
weird
the
game
Charlotte
of like
area.
Mario Bros. Like the princess is in another castle.
That's what it felt like, dude. It was so strange. Yeah.
I am really curious about the Waffle Houses because like I have a friend from Georgia who like every time Waffle Houses bring up, he'll go on this like tirade about like how that's like the one bad thing about where we live, no Waffle Houses.
Yeah. I've heard of people coming to Jesus in Waffle Houses.
Yeah.
It's not even a joke.
I know that's not a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Waffle Houses are super significant over there.
If you have their chicken and waffles, it is a spiritual experience.
You cannot eat that and not think there's a God.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
one-
Hey,
yeah.
listen, we got like 10 more minutes on the podcast. What are some of the more important things that you want to share about your experience there?
Oh man. Well,
Some of the people you met. What was? Maybe we can go through some more
If there's
photos.
stories we don't get to, we'll probably film more of these fermented grape segments.
Yeah,
we
might
just
have
for Luke
to.
to talk about things.
I like this format a lot better than our regular format. This is a bit more
here's
comfy.
one example of what you go to and you see. This is a FEMA camp that no FEMA was there. There was a couple people who were just average everyday citizens who were eating some food. They made enough food for 500 people. It all went to waste. These are a bunch of like living quarters and shower trailers that were all empty. I was gonna find a picture of.
Oh,
Oh,
so
did I
got
tell
to
you
see
guys?
the northern lights
yeah,
there?
did I tell you guys? While we were over there, there was a big solar storm hitting the Earth, and it caused it to where we could see the northern lights.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was cool because my wife could see it back home, and she was sending pictures to me, and I could see it here. With your eyes, you could really only see like a red hue, but then if you took a picture, like long exposure, it would show you a beautiful picture. My father-in-law cut his thumb up and pretty bad.
Yeah,
Got
you said a
stitched.
military guy helped you stitch it up?
Yeah, an ex-military guy. He was really cool.
Did he get any anesthesia for that?
Oh, this is what I wanted to show you guys. No, he just kind of gave him some lidocaine on the area, and then
Give him a stick to bite down on?
right. No, my father-in-law's stupid tough. The whole time I was just like, dude, like you're way tougher than me. It is wild. This is a sign I thought CJ would like. It says, "Put some South in your mouth."
So
That was at the Biscuit Head,
Look,
and that place is
it's
the
probably,
one place we went to
it's
eat.
probably different because they live in the South. That means something completely different.
I was going to say that. I'm sure they meant that very innocently.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Here's a short little video of us driving through this cool little
Was
statue
that Smokey
thing.
the Bear?
Hope.
It says hope.
Even what is this? Even when
Even when there's, come on, even when the creek rises.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's a little snapshot there of
Who's the guy holding it? From my view, it looks like Smokey the Bear.
I don't know. It's like there's a lot of
if
art.
it was Smokey, he's like, we don't know what to do in this scenario. This is outside of my purview.
I'm just imagining like disaster happens. People are out there. We got people like Luke, contractors, building places for people to stay, organizing food, and then you have people like Eli, the local artists, who are like, well, I'm obviously not going to be doing any manual labor. So I want to go.
It's like hope.
Yeah. There
No,
were some guys on my art feed who were like selling like art, like to support or whatever.
That's
and,
so.
yeah.
So one thing I do want to make super apparent is that the amount of good people are doing is incredible for these areas. Like it's the biggest disaster response I think I've seen in my lifetime of people like making sure that there's donations and funds, and people are doing like benefit concerts for North Carolina, stuff like that. So that was really cool to see. I thought it was like it gave me hope. Like this little sign.
Yeah, that's really sweet. Someone
One
put that
other
up there.
thing, anecdotally, airplanes, you can throw up on them.
That's allowed.
you?
That's legal.
I used my hat because
So
there
you,
wasn't a
you
barf
can't
bag.
bring you
Wow.
can't bring liquids on, but you can throw up liquids on.
Oh
there?
yeah.
Why did you throw up?
So
You're like holding the hat. Is this more than 8 ounces?
dude, that's one of my favorite parts of the whole trip is so I say to Zeb, I'm like, Zeb, what do I do if I throw up? That's my brother-in-law. And he's like, you better keep your mouth closed. And that's what he says, right? And so I'm sorry if this is graphic for the viewers. I'm going to explain exactly what happened. If you don't want this, skip forward a minute. I throw up in my mouth, re-swallow it because I'm like, yeah, I know, because I'm like, can't have this
I'm
coming out.
imagining Zeb swallow that back up in there, boy.
Close your mouth. So
horrible.
swallow it. Then I'm like, it's coming back up. Grab my hat off my head. Look over at Elijah, and he locks eyes with me, and I just vomit my hat. Just lose
so
my lunch.
terrible.
And he's like, his eyes widen, and after that I go, Zeb, I need help. And so he's like, does anyone have a barf bag? And the lady in front of me hears me throwing up, obviously.
Yeah.
Waited until he said that, right? And she hands one back, super kind of her. And Nick goes, Zeb, hold it open for him. Because I'm like trying to get it open. And I'm like, like, it was awful.
Have you never flown before?
No, I have. I had flown that same day. I flew from Medford to Denver. And then this was the Denver to North Carolina.
Just a bad burrito?
Dude, it was the turbulence. It was like, junk, junk, just the plane kept dropping.
You know, I'm like really, I get
was
like
so
motion
sick.
sickness, but I was
Yeah.
fine on the plane last time I flew.
It's the only time I've ever. No.
I did have a panic
think
attack
I've thrown up on a plane
because
before,
I
actually.
have claustrophobia. Really?
Yeah, I think that was the second time I've thrown up on a plane. I've flown. But it was one of those things that I'm like, okay, this turbulence is really bad. And I was just saying in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to throw up. I'm not going to throw up. And then when it happened, it happened.
Yeah.
So anyways, I have the barf bag, throw up. Then I have like my hat that's full of puke. I put it in the barf bag. And I'm like, that thing's not coming back.
Please tell me this is not the hat you're wearing right now.
No. That hat goes into the barf bag. It was my fat Irish hat. I love that hat. But it was mesh, so it was starting to leak. And I was like, I need to make sure this wasn't like a hard hat, you know? Goes in the barf bag, and then I'm walking out looking white as a ghost, right? And just like I'm in North Carolina. And the flight attendant, this just wonderful black lady who just goes, what's in there? And I go, it's my throw up. And she goes, oh Lord. And she just opens a little compartment and goes, in there. And she goes, you want a seltzer or something? And I'm like, yes, please. And she hands me a little bubbly water, and she's like, God bless you. And just like, it was like the sweetest little interaction. That was like my favorite part of the
That is so funny.
Yeah.
I imagine there's a lot of people like that. They're just real kind and friendly. That's what everyone says about the South, is very like hospitable or whatever. Yeah.
So thank you, people of North Carolina.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's probably the barf story is a good one to end on. You know, I think I feel satisfied with that.
It was a great experience.
Yeah.
I would 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Well, from your experience, do they still need more help? Do you know if there's anywhere that people should go to like help or donate or?
The individual people. So you can look on Facebook at like relief zones and stuff like that in the Asheville and outer Asheville area. There's all these little different churches that I'm sure you could donate to.
Yeah.
But realistically, it's the individual people, who need the help.
Good. I like it. Well, thanks for sharing your story, man.
Yeah,
That's
thank you
awesome.
for letting me. It was fun.
Fermented Grape. Let's go.
Episode 1.